Hello and welcome everyone today to a new episode today of the Adam Hazara Show right here on YouTube. Episode 14 we are at today. We got some good news to talk about on the Lake Braddock basketball side. Of course, we got the district tournament games coming up this week. We'll get into those. And of course, we're going to be doing a little bit of season recap of both basketball teams there as well. So you guys do not want to miss. Of course, before we begin, make sure you leave a like, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so you don't miss another episode of the show. And of course, share with a friend. Much appreciated if you do all those things. And of course, once again, any episodes for today's episode can be emailed to the Adam Hazara Show at gmail.com, all lowercase, and then you can tag the Adam Hazara Show over on X at Adam Hazara Show. So make sure you do all those things. You also leave your questions in the chat if you want to. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode of the Adam Hazara Show here around 1:03 p.m. on Monday, February 17th, 2025. So we're going to start off a little bit here on the girls' side, since, of course, they are playing their first district play-in game tonight over at West Springfield. Of course, for all the other teams playing in the play-in round, they're also playing their other games too. And then the winner of that game tonight with Braddock and West Springfield, they will play the number 4 seeded Woodson Cavaliers at Woodson tomorrow evening. Game Braddock and West Springfield scheduled to be at 6 today. So here's kind of what I see with this game, as the Bruins are the 8th seed coming in, of course, and then the Spartans being the 5th seed in the tournament. So, of course, we talk about the Bruins, of course, struggling all season. Of course, the 16-game losing streak. But, a little bit of nice play that they've had recently. Of course, coming back from a 16-game losing streak now and winning 3 in a row. They just won their last game of the season on Friday at Fairfax. I believe it was 43-38 that they won. Now, Emily DePaul, of course, had another big game, 11 points for her. And then she was also named over the weekend to the all-district team as an honorable mention, as well as being named to the all-defensive team too. She's been the Bruins' most consistent player all season. And so you'll have her coming in as well. And, this game coming in, of course, it'll probably be, I think, a bit of a closer contest, of course. I think with the Bruins' momentum that they've had going in, these last 3 games, they definitely have kind of lit a spark under themselves and have really started to get going. Now, the 3 wins, they're not, I wouldn't say they're against any, the most talented teams out there, but I think definitely, seeing some wins, especially for a team that struggled so much this year. And again, we're on a 16-game losing streak. It's very good to see that they're finally kind of coming together now, going into the playoffs with that momentum going for them. And, this is a West Springfield team that they nearly beat a couple weeks ago at Lake Braddock, and it was actually a very close game. So I feel like Bruins have some confidence going in there that they can kind of show up and, possibly maybe even upset the Spartans. This is a game where I think you can kind of see a good upset versus a solid West Springfield team led by Coach Gibson as always. So I think the Bruins will be very fired up for that one. And I think, again, just going back to that, this is a team saying, hey, we've faced before. We've really shown that we can really go toe-to-toe with them. When we lost, I believe, by, I think it was 4 points. I think it was like 56-52 the last time if they played them. Pretty high-scoring game, but Bruins actually did a really good job keeping up with them. I think towards the end, they kind of lost some steam. Now is, I think, the game where the Bruins really weren't resting a lot of their players. It was just more so they were just kind of throwing their best players out there, playing them most of the minutes, not letting them get the rest and stamina that they needed. And so they kind of didn't get the physical momentum that they needed to. And so, not, again, a lot of use of the bench. You should probably have at least 2 of your bench players after now. I know usually at this level, it's like 6 or 7 players you have in a rotation. Mostly I think 7, though. And, Bruins, now they don't have the best depth, but I think at least just putting in a couple of your best players in your depth chart out there does kind of help a couple of your players rest. So I think that's definitely something that the Bruins could do. Coach Reed can do as well coming into this game. And so I think this is a game where you could really see the Bruins having a bit of a chance going in again with their momentum and with seeing how well they played against West Springfield just a couple weeks ago. Definitely wouldn't be surprised to see if that game kind of is very close. And a little bit of a season recap for them. Of course, they were 4-18. Again, they had a 3-game winning streak after that, 16-game losing streak. And then, of course, they've gone through a lot this season. Definitely a lot of injuries. Of course, Pacey Magnuson was out for a lot of it. That was the biggest player that they lost. Again, it had to do with a really tough schedule going in. I think, just playing such a tough schedule early on and facing a lot of unique challenges, big challenges as well. That's also going to be a factor that's really going to be going in for Bruins. And, that they've probably learned so much from those challenges and, that they've kind of gotten out a lot of really good challenge, a lot of really good experience. I think you definitely see all that kind of culminating up to this point in the sense that it's going to really give the Bruins even more momentum as well. So that's another factor I see going for them. Of course, they just were facing state contender after state contender after state contender. It just seemed like every day it was just, a blowout. And they finally got healthy. Even then, there's still some pretty lopsided games. But again, hasn't been as bad. Bruins have overall been playing better with Pacey Magnuson. You're going to hear her name brought up a lot, as has been on the show in past episodes, because she's a really big part of Bruins team inside, especially. I'm kind of surprised she might have not gotten like a Patriot District honorable mention. I think she was kind of up there too, but I think there's, it's just such a talented district with a lot of talent, especially inside where it's like really physical. And so, it's kind of hard to pick and choose, who should get the all district matters and who should be named to that. But again, I think she was kind of deserving at very least as an honorable mention, if nothing at all. If she'd be up there, but I'm pretty sure she was in the conversations for that. So also, again, just another note, the Bruins, of course, we'll see if they also try to get some of these other games in later this week. I know it's a lot of snow coming in, and I know it was like 20 inches of snow that was reported like over the weekend. I don't think that's going to happen now because I checked the weather report last night, and I heard that it's not like supposed to be as bad. Some models like are showing it's like supposed to only be like a few inches of snow. Maybe there's like 1 day off. Maybe there's like a 2-hour delay. Maybe if any days 2-hour delay, we're probably still going to play. The only thing you have to worry about is those off days. That could happen later on the week. The snow is supposed to start Wednesday night, I believe. So tomorrow they should be able to get the district quarterfinals in. District semis, district finals are supposed to happen Thursday, Friday, respectively. Kind of a question mark. But yeah. So obviously, again, we'll see what happens with that. And just kind of wrap up with the Bruins. Just a little quick season recap. Definitely a lot of struggles. But again, they've definitely built up a lot. They've definitely gotten a lot more good chemistry going. They've been playing, getting better and better, with that chemistry growing. And again, I think it's all kind of coming together at the right time, as they're going to be going into the first postseason game they're playing tonight. Of course, they're going to have to fight for a spot in regionals tonight. If they lose and their season's over, so they will look to keep their season alive now. I think the favorites in terms of this game would probably have to be the Spartans, so because I think they're overall better team. But again, I wouldn't count the Bruins out again with the momentum they have going in, and they've proven that they can play with the Spartans well as they did before. So we'll see what happens with that. So it'll be kind of interesting on the girls' side. Let's move over to the boys' side. Now on the boys' side, of course, they wrapped up their season on Friday. Dominant like almost 30-point win over Fairfax, a very good Fairfax team that's usually strong defensively. And Bruins just really came out. That was senior night and had a huge win. Tye Clayton almost had 30 points. Nate McComb, I think, had a season high in points for like 24, 26. Big games for them. Offense was mostly running for them. They scored majority of the points. I know Xavier May, Nick Tarr got a few as well, a couple of the other seniors. But yeah, really big one on senior night to finish out their season. Bruins. Talk about what a season they've had. First of all, they finished 11-11, but what really happened, you kind of talk about their season, and so we've really seen us like kind of been up and down. A lot of people have said that, it's like, oh, well, one night they're winning over 30 and the next point they're losing by 30. And I don't think those losses where they lost like around 30 points was really was what really defined the Bruins team. It's not like, oh, they're just streaky and they can just be hit or miss on some nights. Now, of course, some teams can be. We've seen it this season. Really good teams can be, just don't show up at all some nights. But I think with the Bruins, it just had to more so do with the fact that they didn't get healthy. Not a lot of people are mentioning the fact that they haven't been healthy. And I think the reason why is because it's not like the Bruins have had any of their big name players really get that hurt. Like Clayton and McComb have been healthy for pretty much the whole season. And Clayton maybe had about one game where he had like a lower body scare and where he didn't like score any points against West Potomac. But overall, he's been healthy the whole season. He's been playing extremely well. Him and McComb have catapulted the Bruins boys basketball revival, and they've come back really well from their 3-20 season last year to going 11-11. And credits to Coach Mitras and his staff. Credits to all the Bruins players for having such a big turnaround. And they didn't even qualify for regionals last year. Now they have an automatic regional bid, claiming the 4th seed in this district tournament, and they will go on to host Fairfax or Robinson tomorrow. That Fairfax-Robinson game will be tonight. Of course, make sure to follow me on X over at Adam Hazara. Of course, you also follow the show. Both those accounts will be updating what happens in terms of who the Bruins will be facing tomorrow. So we'll kind of get more into who will be facing them in a few minutes. But again, we just kind of finishing off here in Bruins season recap. But again, the Bruins haven't really gotten healthy, and the names that have been hurt are really like Khalid Cash and Walker Mitchell. Now, those are not big names. But they're big in the Bruins' depth. Before they came back healthy, Bruins kind of had some depth issues. You still had Riley Pearson, Dean Johnson a little bit coming off a bench. But Mitchell and Cash, those are two guys that Coach Mitras has said that could make the Bruins a whole lot better, because he describes them as two potential starters. So now you have two potential starters, and they haven't started any games still up to this point. Probably not going to unless one of the Bruins' normal starting 5 gets injured. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but that's the reason why you probably haven't really heard about the Bruins this season. Like, oh well, everyone's just assumed they're fully healthy. But yeah, they've even the Bruins have dealt with their fair share of injuries too, and are still big players coming off a bench for the Bruins. And the Bruins have played a lot better. They've played more consistently. That's why they only lost to Woodson by 10 points. It wasn't by like 30. So I wouldn't say any of a 30-point loss to Edison on December 13th. The 26-point loss to Woodson back on January 10th was really what defined this Bruins team. Like, yeah, they're you can't just say, they're nowhere close to competing with these teams. And, the Bruins even were winning versus Woodson in the first half. So, of course, they're probably going to be up and down with some injuries. But, again, that's not really what defines this Bruins team. They've finished out well. And, big statement win versus Fairfax. Now, Fairfax has really struggled this year. They've lost 11 to their last 12 this season. They really have no offense outside of Cam Yingling. And you expected maybe a bit of a defensive battle, despite how much better the Bruins offense has been this year. The offense has actually been pretty good lately. But Fairfax just didn't really show up. Their defense, also, we've talked about how strong it's been. It's actually been strong as of late, but overall it's been strong the whole season. But again, the last few games of the season, they've not been really playing up to the standards that you expect them to, being really strong defensively and, always keeping the game close, even with the toughest of teams. So the Bruins were able to take advantage of that, take advantage of the struggles, and get a near 30-point win. Again, credit to the Bruins for doing that. And so, again, I think the Bruins team you're going to see the rest of the postseason is going to be teams that play close. Any double-digit losses is probably going to be between 10, 15 points probably at most. If everyone plays at their best, the only way I see it like maybe being by 20 is if, they just completely falter against, a team like Woodson or like one of those strong teams. But again, it should still be a dogfight with one of those two teams because, again, I don't think this Bruins team is as hit or miss, is as bad as a lot of people have said. And also another thing, the Bruins have had a lot of really close games this season that were winnable or that they should have won. For example, they had that Heritage game back during winter break. That Heritage team, they only lost to by 2 points. Very winnable game. But the Bruins didn't use the timeout when they needed to, so that ended up costing them the game. Should have won that. And so that was the Heritage team that went on to go win the entire winter tournament back in December. Bruins there could have probably won their own tournament. Had they, Heritage won a whole thing, they only played close to 2 points, they probably could have went on and beaten Atlee or the West Virginia team or whoever would have stood in their way. And then also some other games, they had those two extremely close bids with West Springfield. The first game that they played when it hosted West Springfield back, I believe it was on January 27th, that was a winnable game. They should have won that. Again, a lot of these losses this season, I think, has come down to not using timeouts when you need to. Again, a little bit confusing why why Coach Mitras is not using timeouts when he should have needed to those. I don't know if it's just he's letting kind of his players ride it out. But again, or it's just, maybe, a couple of those games, they were a little bit complacent or they were just kind of thrown off guard. But again, even in those situations where that happens, as a head coach, you need to be using your timeouts to rally, to be getting your players on the right track and say, hey, and you need to, if you're one of those two things, you need to admit it and say that, hey, we're complacent. Hey, we're getting thrown off guard a little bit. We didn't expect this coming in tonight. And hey, we need to start doing X, Y, and Z to start really turning the tides of this game and really start trying to win and, say, hey, things, we're getting outpaced. Let's calm down a little bit. And so that we can get on the same page here. And again, if Bruins, maybe won those games, and then again, we could very well look at them being a few games over 500. So I think this Bruins team is actually a bit above average. Now, are they as good as Woodson? Do I think they're going to win the district title? Do I think they're going to make states? No. I think that's kind of a bit much to ask considering the other teams that they'll have to go through. And the fact that there's just a few better teams, I think there are in the region. I think Woodson is better than the Bruins. I think Hayfield is better than the Bruins, even though they haven't faced them at all this year. Hayfield can play as well with just as about anybody. I think South County is a bit better than the Bruins. But although, I think the Bruins would play all those teams close, though, I think, it's just more likely that any of those three teams will probably hop over Lake Braddock in any game. We're not saying, the Bruins could beat them. There's still, of course, the miracle chance that they could. But overall, Bruins will make it a big fight with anyone. But overall, again, Bruins still had a very, very strong season. Overall, really excited to see that they've had this little cool revival this year. just talk about the big roles of Nate McComb and Tyee Clayton. Xavier Main's still playing well. Tar has been playing well. Khalid Cash, Walker Mitchell, Riley Peterson coming off a bench doing good things, especially, talk about the stories of Mitchell and Cash, who were suffering injuries that they had during football, carried well into the basketball season, and they've recovered from that, and they've provided some big-time production off the bench for the Bruins, especially defensively. I think they've been great, which is really what you see in the Patriots. You see a lot of more so low-scoring games and a lot of big defensive battles that you really see now. And it doesn't really seem like overall there's as many teams averaging a big amount of points per game. Maybe Woodson and South County, when the Stallions are fully healthy, they've had some injury problems to their backcourt this year. But I think, I don't know how healthy South County is, but they're still going to definitely be afraid if they are. They're on the other side of the bracket. So we'll see if Bruins can get so far. But let's get into a little bit of this game that's going to be talked about tonight. Fairfax, Robinson, winner of this game will, of course, again, play Lake Braddock. Make sure you tune into Lake Braddock Student Broadcasting YouTube channel tomorrow night. So I will be on a call again, commentating the Bruins' first postseason game of the year. At least be one more after this, because they will be qualifying for regionals next week. So that will be exciting to see as well. And make sure you tune in to catch all the action tomorrow against Fairfax or Robinson, which we'll get into. So between the two teams, I think I would have to go for who's going to win this. I think we'll go Robinson. I'll just say that right off the bat. I think Robinson has the better advantage. They've beaten Fairfax twice during regular season. Fairfax, again, not a lot of momentum going for them. And even defensively, again, we've mentioned this earlier on the show. They've not been playing up to par with their defense. Their defense has sucked the last few games. And they've just, the points allowed per game has been going up. Looked brutal versus Lake Braddock. So, and they mostly had everyone fully healthy. It seemed like none of their key players were really benched. So we'll see that. Again, it can't be Cam. Even Cam Yingling got shut down for Fairfax. He's averaging, about 18.5 points per game this year. He only scored like 11 or 12, which is way below his season average. So for him, he had a down game. Bruins did a great job keeping him at bay. But yeah, I think Robinson wins this. It's just they have a lot more going for him, a lot more weapons to work with. Overall, much rounded team. Especially offensively, they can do some good things defensively as well. Zach Nemitz at guard, Mateen Rahim inside. Both of them first team All-District this year. Other solid players, Braxton Sebastian, Noah Barnhart at guard, Grady Hill as well inside, who's a good junior player. So, you got a lot to watch out for from a balanced Robinson attack, and I think that's why they'll really have the edge over Fairfax, who's, again, lost 11 of their, final 11 of their final 12 games, and that stretch where they lost 11. So, again, Fairfax, really struggling and has not really had any wins in the second half. Robinson more momentum, so they're going to probably go on to face Lake Braddock. So, with that in mind, what would you expect to see in that Lake Braddock game against Robinson if that game were to get played tomorrow? So what I would see with that is that I would probably see there being, again, now the last time the Bruins played Robinson, Bruins actually handled them well, defeating him 55-30. Robinson didn't show up. They couldn't really get a lot of shots. That's a really good Robinson shooting team. That's probably the team that they've been most known for, is they're really good shooting this year with all those fantastic three-pointers that they've gotten from all the really good perimeter shooting guards. Also, they have a good game inside with Rahim and Hill, so watch out for that. They have overall some really good players to watch. But again, I think, this game this is one of those games where you probably say, could be absolutely offside or it could be close. It depends, of course, I think how Robinson shows up. If they play really close, again, could definitely be a thriller between both of them. And if Robinson plays like they did versus the Bruins back on the 28th of January, where we lost by 25, couldn't get any shots off, and the Bruins have done a great job this year playing well against their defense, especially on the perimeter. And so they've done a really good job closing out of Robinson's shooting opportunities. They haven't been able to get a lot of floor spacing. And so the Bruins have been able to get some momentum going against them. And again, Bruins team fully healthy, very dangerous. It's a confidence Bruins team that can keep up with just about anybody. It can, any given night could probably even beat, some very good teams today. If everyone on a team clicks and everyone performs up to their standards. So that something they got going. And then, of course, Robinson doesn't show up again. You could see, this game being a blowout loss for themselves. Or Lake Bragg, too. If Lake Bragg doesn't show up, but I don't think that's going to be the case for Lake Bragg this time. The last time you really saw them have a massive, blow-up game was probably that Woodson game. Now, there's, of course, that weird out-of-district game versus Langley a few weeks ago. And of course, the Bruins lost that game by 14. I don't think it was the worst, but again, I didn't go to that game, so I'm not sure if the Bruins had players who were out that game or whatnot. But again, maybe that one game. But again, besides that game, I can't really think of another game where the Bruins have been absolutely throttled and have just really played badly. So, you can't really say. There's been a lot of games like that, but I think the Bruins have definitely overall been more consistent. And again, dangerous team to watch out for. You're going to see a lot of that. A lot of dangerous teams, well, not sporadic. Robinson is. I think Fairfax, their defense somehow plays well. And, they can somehow play good enough defensively to keep, teams at bay. And, allow their offense to score just enough points to win the game. I think you could maybe see them play some thrillers. Maybe they kind of get on a little ride there and get on a little good winning streak of their own. West Potomac is great to watch out for. They're always they always have some of that St. Louis Cardinals devil magic in them. When it comes to postseason play, they'll go 5th place in the district and then they'll just win the region. Everyone talks about that. West Potomac. Don't be surprised to do it again this year. And then you have, of course, Woodson, who's the favorites. And you have South County as well. Again, if they're healthy, I think they could definitely keep up with Woodson. And Woodson kind of got exposed by West Potomac. West Potomac proved, beg your pardon, that Woodson is beatable in district play this year. So, yeah, and I think, Bruins could also play well with them if Bruins just play consistently enough. Just through regulation, just through the first 32 minutes of the game and so that they can beat a team like Woodson. I think that they could do that too. So we'll see what it is for Bruins tomorrow. If it's Fairfax, probably I expect the Bruins more to blow out. Fairfax just with the way that they've been playing, unless it's again, really close defensive game. But the Bruins, I think, are better. They have just as, they can have just as good of a defense as the Lions a lot of times. And the Bruins overall have better scoring as well. It's just not like Tyke Clay. It's just not one guy. Like Fairfax with Cam Yingling. It's not like that. Bruins have other weapons that can score 20 points. We saw Nate McComb can. Xavier Maine probably could if he wanted to. He's, of course, been a leading scorer the last couple of years. Before this one. He probably could on any given night. Nick Tarr can put up some big points. Clay Cash off a bench could do some big stuff. Even Walker Mitchell, too, could do some big stuff off the bench. So again, Bruins have a lot of weapons. I think they would beat Fairfax any day, including Fairfax Robinson. Are actually 4-0. They've beaten both matches they faced against those two teams this year. So Bruins have the edge over both these teams. I think with Bruins, especially from momentum and the fact they've beaten Robinson twice, could definitely be favorites And I would say I have their favorites to move on to play Woodson on Thursday. Kind of get into those Woodson games and every day. We actually are going to have multiple podcast episodes this week coming out, so make sure you look out for that as well. So again, really interesting week coming up for all the district, including the Bruins on a boys and the girls side. So we'll kind of get more into that stuff later on. But I want to say I'll wrap it up for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. See you next time. Bye. Have a great day, everybody.